Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I am your host, Nelson, here on this Friday afternoon. Finally, I'm not late to the time where I'm supposed to be doing these lives, so yay me, congrats, yay, give everyone a round of applause. So we're going to dive right into this, actually, because, I feel like this might be a little bit of a longer than normal. I feel like some of these segments might be a little bit longer than normal. First, we're going to start with Kawhi Leonard being out indefinitely with an injury. I mean, is anyone surprised? And we'll go ahead and talk about that in the first segment. And then in the second, third, and fourth segment, we are going to continue on with ESPN's top player lists. And then we have the fifth segment, which I'll save up until the end of the fourth segment. So be sure to stay tuned for that if any of you guys are interested. And before I begin, I'd like to remind everybody that we love to hear what you guys have to say during the show. Whether you guys have a hot take, whether you guys have a burning question, something you've been dying to share, we're all ears. If you really want your comment or question to get noticed, I recommend using Super Chat. You just click on the $ below the chat box and you can send in your comments and or donations that way. Super Chat's not really your thing, then that's okay. You can always use the link displayed below the ticker on every show segment, gsmcpodcast.net. And I also recommend, if you guys like listening to things other than basketball, like, for example, football. The football season is well underway. We're like at the midpoint already. I know it's incredible how quickly these weeks go by. We have so many football podcasts. We have a college football podcast. As you know, there's a college game that's going to happen later on today. We also have a chip shot football podcast, 2 sports podcasts that also cover football as well. And not only that, we also have I believe we have a baseball podcast. I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure if we have a host for that again, but I'm pretty sure we do. The baseball postseason, it seems like it's going to be legendary. So if you guys are interested in any of those other sports, I recommend watching our other podcast and listening to that. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this first segment, which is talking about Kawhi Leonard. He's out indefinitely, once again, due to an injury that he suffered literally before the season. I believe he's had some inflammation on his right knee. I think that's exactly what it's called. He's dealing with chronic inflammation from the multiple surgeries that he's had on his leg. And he played in just 2 playoff games in 2023 due to a torn right meniscus and missed the entire 2021 and 2022 season after tearing his right ACL during the 2021 playoffs. And this has just been a thing with Kawhi Leonard. This has been incredibly common with Kawhi Leonard. He always gets hurt. He's always injury prone. And this inflammation, it has him sidelined for I don't even know how long for this season. And this is really bad. I mean, the Clippers, I don't usually expect the Clippers to collapse until the playoffs or maybe even in the middle of the season. Now this is happening before the season even starts. So already the fans are let down, and now they have to rely on James Harden, who's well past his prime, to carry a bunch of randoms, for lack of a better term, because right now they don't have star power. As you know, Paul George ended up leaving in free agency, and now Kawhi Leonard being out, meaning the only player that's considered a star, or even was considered a star at one point now on the roster, is James Harden. So it's going to be, it might be a really rough ride for the Clippers going into this season. I don't think the Clippers are going to make the playoffs at this rate if Kawhi Leonard is going to be out indefinitely, and especially towards the start of the season. If the Clippers can't figure something out, and if they can't keep winning, or if they can't win, period, then waiting until Kawhi Leonard, it wouldn't mean much, because then once he gets back, maybe if he gets back mid-season, they might be a little bit too far in the standings in order to catch up. And if they did, they'd have to go on some sort of ridiculous, never-seen-before winning streak. And it's the Clippers we're talking about here, so I don't really think that's going to happen. It's unbelievable. I mean, last season, at one point they were the favorites to make the postseason, to make it all the way through the finals, and they were around co-favorites, like again, not exactly co-favorites, but really close to being co-favorites with the Boston Celtics to win it all. And now they ended up crashing and burning towards the end of the season, and they got wrecked by Luka in the postseason. And now it's like they're back to square one. They're back to just being the good old Clippers that nobody really wants to talk about and nobody expects much out of. Now, there was one NBA executive that actually thinks Kawhi Leonard should just retire. Like, he's had a career. There's a quote that says, quote, "He had a terrific career. He'll be in the Hall of Fame, but he's damaged goods. The Clippers made the major mistake giving him that extension. They are screwed." That's the quote. That's not me. So, and the reality is that, yes, they are indeed screwed. He does have that huge contract, so they do have to keep him. But I feel like, I mean, he's just going to be like this. This is just the player that Kawhi is. He's just constantly injury prone. He's fantastic when he's not injured, but it's like your best ability is your availability, especially now in today's NBA. I don't know what it is, but it's like everyone is suffering a bunch of injuries. Like, everyone's getting hurt, and like the season hasn't even started yet. We already saw Paul George. He got lucky that he's not going to be sidelined for more than a week. And not only that, Isaiah Hartenstein, he recently got a fracture on his left hand, and he'll be sidelined for the beginning of the season as well. Like, I don't know what's up with these guys. Like, I remember there was a time when it was expected for players to play in all 82 games. Now it's just like a big what if, like if they play 82 games. Because now NBA stars, they don't really seem to do that. The only one that comes to mind is Mikal Bridges, who plays in every single game. It doesn't matter what the record is. It doesn't matter. It really, unless he literally can't walk or can't shoot, he's playing in the game. Like, that's the only player that comes to mind that really thinks like that. Aside from that, everybody just tends to get injured, and it's like, what are we doing here? Now, again, Kawhi Leonard, he's one of the top players in NBA history. He averaged 23 points per game, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal in 2023-2024 for the Clippers in 68 games while shooting 52% from the field, 41% from 3, and 88% from the free throw line. He made the All-Star team, and he made the All-NBA second team, which admittedly should have been saved for LeBron. I refuse to believe that Kawhi Leonard is better than LeBron. He'll never be better than LeBron. And the fact that he even got chosen for second team over LeBron is just egregious in my opinion. Not to mention, I mean, I wonder what history is going to label Kawhi, because everyone that's a fan of the NBA now, like, we know just how good Kawhi Leonard actually is when he's healthy, and we know what he can do in the postseason when he's healthy. And I'm really curious to see like how history is going to remember this man, because like, I mean, fun fact, he has fewer career points than Green in the regular season, which is absolutely ridiculous. Like, I mean, it's really like, what on earth are we doing here? Like, this is Kawhi Leonard we're talking about. You don't really expect Kawhi Leonard to have you don't really expect Kawhi Leonard to have less points than Green in any sort of career game or in any sort of like career throughout his entire lifespan. It's like, what on earth are we doing here? Like, he's really just he's so good in the postseason. He's so good when he's healthy, and it's like, why? Why is he always injured? Like, how is history going to remember this man? Like, he has not been a part of what, at least, according to the Clippers assistant coach, he said he's not been a part of what we've been doing on a daily basis, Brian Shaw ended up saying. I know the company line has been that we're going to be patient with him, so he's doing everything that he can to rehab and strengthen that knee on his own with our medical staff. And we're just dealing with the guys that we have available, meaning, James Harden and the rest of the Clippers roster. It's really like, it's not an ideal situation that the Clippers are in right now, because, like, again, this is really bad. This is a really bad spot that they're in. Now, if James Harden just all of a sudden just, turns into prime James Harden for the Clippers and, immediately just... Also, by the way, I didn't say Green's first name. I don't know what was wrong with me there. Jeff Green is what I meant to say. Yeah, he has fewer career points than Jeff Green. But if the Clippers can't figure something out, assuming that James Harden isn't really the exact same player that he has been. I don't think he's going to be the same player anymore. He's getting rather old, and I don't really think he is going to be able to be the same 30-point per game scorer that we remember him. And Corrido's in the chat, long time no see. I improved my basketball skill, lost a lot of weight last year. Basketball season, 233 this year, 223. Oh, wonderful. We love to see it. We love to see that. Getting cut, getting in the gym, getting swole. We love to see that. So, anyways, as I was saying before, the Clippers, the contract that I was talking about with the Clippers was the 3-year, 153 extension that he signed in January. On his podcast, Paul George said the Clippers offered him the 3-year, $150 million contract. When George countered by asking for a no trade clause in the deal, the Clippers ended up declining. And George requested a 4-year contract worth $212 without the no trade clause, but the Clippers weren't interested. So now it really seems like the Clippers are really, really missing Paul George. And really, this is just a very this is a huge missed opportunity for the Clippers. And now it's just been getting worse. And I don't expect the Clippers to make the postseason. I really don't. Especially now given the competitiveness of the Western Conference, I think the Clippers and the postseason is just over, and I don't expect them to make it. But let me know in the comments exactly what you guys think. Do you guys think that the Clippers are going to make the postseason? Do you guys think they shouldn't make the postseason? Shots below the belts in the chat, saying Kawhi Leonard should have stayed with the Spurs. He left because he wanted to be on the court more, but Popovich limits the minutes of his starters. Leonard will always be injured because of his ego. I don't think it's exactly like that. I do know that Kawhi Leonard and Popovich invented the load managing thing, and it's not like Kawhi Leonard won't really seem to be too keen on entering the game. There was once a point where on the Spurs, he was sitting out up until he got traded. And, he wasn't going to play the season unless he got traded. And then, he ended up getting traded over to Toronto, and he did this and that and the other. Now, I will say that Kawhi Leonard might have an ego. I do sort of agree with you on that. He might have an ego. Simply put, Kawhi Leonard has always been part of good teams. He gets the lion's share of the credit whenever things go right, gets little criticism whenever things go wrong. And, maybe it's because he's quiet, so the media just leaves him alone. But that doesn't necessarily... Just because he's quiet doesn't necessarily mean that he's humble. So, I'm down with that. I could see that. It definitely wouldn't surprise me as... if he were to even have an ego. I do see the rest of your other responses in the chat, but before I answer them, I'm going to go into this short break, and then we'll go into the second segment where I look at ESPN's top player list. Last time, I believe we left off at 23, so I'll be right back after this short break to talk about the rest of the players on the list, so be sure to stay tuned.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown. Get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we are back with the second segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. In this second segment, I'm going to go ahead and look at ESPN's list of top players currently in the NBA. Before I begin, there's two things I'd like to do. First, I'd like to remind you that we love to hear what you guys have to say during the show, whether you guys have a hot take, whether you guys have a burning question, something that you've just been dying to share. We're all ears, and if you really want your comment or question to get noticed, I recommend using Super Chat. Just click on the $sign below the chat box, and you can send in your comments and or donations that way. Super Chat's not really your thing. That's all right. You could always use the link displayed below the ticker on every show segment. It should be coming up real soon. gsmcpodcast.net, and you can send in your comments and or donations that way as well. Yeah, you can see it right now. It's popping up just below the ticker for any of you guys that are interested. And then the second thing that I want to do is acknowledge we have a very active chat today. All right, hold on just 1 second. So we'll start with Corrido, who said, I think the Lakers and Warriors are going to be good this year. I see them getting past the first round. And I have no idea if that's going to be exactly what's going to happen, but, I mean, I wouldn't count out Steph Curry or LeBron James either. And depending on how things work, considering, like, they're both going to be heavy on the three-point shot. And it's like you live by the three and you die by the three. So we really we have to see exactly how well their teams can shoot the three ball. And next, we have shots below the belt. Popovich knew Leonard's physical capabilities. The system was perfect. Right, but again, if Kawhi Leonard would have stayed on the Spurs, then how do we know if he would have even won another championship? Because you could argue that move, leaving the Spurs to go to Toronto, benefited his legacy. And towards the end, obviously, when his time on the Clippers is just a complete failure, I totally understand that. But it's not like Kawhi Leonard is he actively wants to play. It doesn't seem like that, at least. So I don't really know if you can really get angry at Kawhi Leonard with that. But again, I do understand your point on thinking that he does have an ego. Just because he's quiet doesn't mean that he's humble. Diggs, how's it going? He just wanted to say what's up. And then Corrido, once again in the chat, said this is going to be one heck of a Western Conference this year. Now with Warriors, Kings, and Lakers look like they finally got back to form. Not entirely sure exactly how the Kings are going to play, but they do have some of the most underrated players in the NBA right now, so anything is possible. Andre is also in the chat saying Kawhi is cursed. He's finessing the Clippers. That Toronto team with Kawhi is criminally underrated. I mean, yes, they are criminally underrated, but we all know that Raptors team wasn't going to win the finals if Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson had not gotten hurt. And shots below the belt again said he was the prodigy, the future of the Spurs. They were going to build a team around him. Yeah, well, Kawhi didn't want to wait. And he didn't really need to wait because there was already a championship-ready team with the Toronto Raptors. And boom, he got it. And, his time with the Clippers, again, it's just been seen as a failure. But that one season if anything, if you're going to blame Kawhi Leonard for anything, it shouldn't be for him leaving the Spurs, but for him not staying another year with the Toronto Raptors. I feel like that should be something that Kawhi Leonard gets blamed for. Not necessarily for leaving the Spurs, because, he left, but then he ended up winning a championship. You could make the argument that the Raptors could have even repeated again, considering how Kevin Durant eventually left towards again. So, you never know. But yes, Kawhi Leonard, he decided to leave the Raptors, then he went over to the Clippers, made commercials bragging about how LA was his city. So I do understand the thought process on you thinking that he might have an ego, because that's not necessarily untrue. Again, we don't know that. But aside from that, let's continue with this ESPN list. I literally spent so much time talking about Kawhi Leonard that I couldn't even get through this list. So we left off at, 24 or 25. I'm not entirely sure. But directly under Damian Lillard, which was 23, was Paolo Banchero, and directly after that was Kyrie Irving at number 25. I don't really got a problem with that. I think that Kyrie Irving is a fantastic player. He's definitely better than the previous year that he was playing basketball. So I have no problem with him moving up all the way to 25. Same with Paolo Banchero. I think he's one of the more underrated players in the NBA as well. Same thing with number 26, which is where we start off this list, which is De'Aaron Fox. And to be fair, I think De'Aaron Fox is probably one of the most underrated point guards in the entire NBA. Like, nobody really talks about how good he is until he's, like, in the postseason. And he really only had that 1 year with the Kings when he was the 3rd seed, and then Steph Curry just said bye-bye. Or night-night, I guess you could say. Whatever keens your Steph Curry interest. And De'Aaron Fox, like, he's very underrated alongside with his teammate, and Domantas Sabonis. So him being ranked at number 26 behind Damian Lillard, I'm not entirely sure. Like, I don't really know if I would put De'Aaron Fox, at least, considering how De'Aaron Fox played last season, I really don't think I'd put Damian Lillard over De'Aaron Fox, just based off of the production and play last season. Same thing with Kyrie Irving. I actually think Kyrie Irving played a lot better than Damian Lillard did throughout the season. So I'm very surprised that either one of those point guards are ranked higher than Dame. Like, I don't have a problem exactly with the spot that they're at, but I do have a problem with the spot where Damian Lillard is at. And even Kawhi Leonard, who's ranked higher than him, but that's a completely different argument. Next player on this list is Zion Williamson. He was ranked 57th in the previous season, and now he jumps all the way up to 27. And he played a career-high 70 games, averaging 22 points, 5 rebounds, as New Orleans advanced to its second postseason during his tenure. So even though I will say that they ended up making the playoffs without him. So, but aside from that, I really want Zion to succeed. Aside from LeBron and Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's one of the best finishers around the basket that I've ever seen. And even in, like, the play-in matchup against the Lakers, he was incredibly clutch. I believe he dropped, like, 40 points in that play-in matchup. Like, he is a very solid player, and he's definitely one of the fewer players that actually uses his size to his advantage and can bully a lot of the bigger players in today's game. He's also a pretty solid offensive rebound, and again, just an overall solid rebound. Now I know that, his stats, they don't really seem like he's a dominant rebounder, because he's not, but he's a solid rebounder. That I think is something to write home about. And not to mention, that production, 22 points per game, it's not all that, but I do expect his production to slightly increase with the Pelicans, and especially if Brandon Ingram gets traded, because we still have no idea if Brandon Ingram's going to get traded. However, having Jimmy Butler ranked at 28th, I'm not entirely sure about. I don't really think that having Jimmy Butler better than Zion Williamson is accurate or, like, even worth mentioning. Like, because this, I don't know. Like, I know I'm not a big fan of playoff Jimmy Butler, and I do think that playoff Jimmy Butler is a little bit overrated, but Jimmy Butler takes his team far in the postseason. And he is arguably one of the big reasons why his team goes that far in the postseason. So having him under Zion Williamson, somebody who is unable to stay healthy, somebody who's unable to really lead his team far in the postseason, I don't really think that's entirely fair. Maybe it's because the Eastern Conference is relatively simple, and maybe it's because Jimmy Butler doesn't really seem to take the regular season seriously. That I could somewhat understand, but at the end of the day, I don't think Jimmy Butler should be ranked anywhere lower than Zion Williamson, or even, honestly, that's really about it. Zion and maybe even Damian Lillard, at least, given this previous season, he should not be ranked lower than Zion. So maybe, like, flip-flop between the two of them. Like, don't really agree with that whatsoever. Now, let me just go ahead and look at the time. All right, so we're well past this second segment. So now we're going to go into an ad break, and then we're going to go ahead and continue with this list right after that break. So be sure to stay tuned if you guys are interested in the rest of this list.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we're back with the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this third segment, we are going to be continuing on with this list of the best players according to ESPN. So we left off at 28 with Jimmy Butler. Now we're going to move on to 29 with none other than Domantas Sabonis. Again, one of the most underrated players in the entire NBA. I don't think he should be ranked lower than Zion. I don't think he should be ranked lower than Jimmy Butler either, just based off of the production that he showed in this season. Like, he led the league in triple-doubles with 26, and he led the league in double-doubles with 77. Like, how? And he also was able to string together 61 consecutive double-doubles. How is this man ranked at number 29? That does not make any sense. It genuinely doesn't. And I know you can make the argument that, like, oh, he was just getting cherry-picked defensive rebounds. That's the reason why he was able to get double-doubles. But no, it does not make any sense. I mean, Angel Reese gets a ton of credit for getting all of her double-doubles. Yet, here we have Sabonis being ranked at number 29. No. Absolutely ridiculous. He should not be ranked under players like, at least, given his production, he should not be ranked anything lower than Zion. He should not be ranked lower than Jimmy Butler. You could make an argument for him being a little bit better than Paolo Banchero. He should not be ranked lower than Dame. Should not be ranked lower than Kawhi. And probably should not even be ranked lower than Paul George, just based off of last season. I'm sorry, but, Sabonis is criminally underrated. Very underrated for his position, and very underrated for the things and production that he can do. And it's really no, it's not. It should not happen. Kevin Abreu, nice last name, by the way. My mother has the same last name. He said, I remember 5 years ago, a lot of people said Clippers finally going to win the championship. Yep, I remember that too. Like I said before, Kawhi Leonard, he was bragging about how LA was his city. Then he blew a 3-1 lead in the bubble. And not only that, he was also, they've just been disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. That's just what the franchise is. I knew they weren't going to win a championship. I mean, if they stayed healthy, I was expecting them to win a championship. But they're just cursed. They're cursed with bad luck. They will always have bad luck. And I don't know, maybe playing in a different arena is going to change that. Who knows? But again, at the end of the day, they're just the Clippers. Clippers are going to clip. It's that simple. And it's almost second nature for the Clippers to just disappoint their fans. I mean, they have many fans, and I can't really say that because one of my friends is a Clippers fan. So I don't know. He might be fuming right now. But aside from that, it's this is just... It's not an ideal situation for the Clippers, and they had an opportunity. They had a golden opportunity. They had a battle of LA just planted right for them, and they choked. It's just that simple, but this is why LeBron reigns supreme. But aside from that, under Sabonis, we have Karl Anthony Towns, and I do agree with this ranking. Karl Anthony Towns should not be... Karl Anthony Towns shouldn't be over Sabonis. He should not be over Jimmy. He should not be over Zion, and he should not be over the rest of these players in the top 30. I think he's very much in the right spot in this ranking, at least, considering the players above him. Now, he might actually be a little bit worse than top 30. That still remains to be seen with the rest of this list, but I don't really have a problem with him being ranked number 30. He made a huge drop. He used to be ranked 20th, and now he's ranked 30th. And now I think this 30th is a little bit more respectable. I do think it's rather respectable compared to what it was previously. Next, 31, Jamal Murray. Again, I don't really think that's necessarily a bad rating. I will say, however, that having someone ranked at 31 who hasn't even made an All-NBA team and hasn't really gotten an All-Star selection at all, I don't really think having him at 31 is valid, if that makes sense. He really, and in the postseason so far, he only has ridiculous postseasons against the Lakers. I don't know what it is with this guy. He turns into Michael Jordan when he goes up against the Lakers. And then against every other team, he's just Jamal Murray. I don't know what it is. I don't know why, but it's like he's just absolutely insane when he goes up against the Lakers. Alberto's in the chat again asking, can Bronny James succeed, well, he misspelled succeed, in the NBA or become a bust? And so far it seems like he's going to be a bust. But I mean, having LeBron as your dad, it doesn't really mean that there's no way that you could succeed because, again, he could learn a lot of things from LeBron, and he's definitely, he's going to be spending the most time with the best player one of the best players in the entire NBA. But as of right now, it seems like he's going to be a bust. Like, if I could describe how he's playing, like, I don't know if you guys played 2K before, but he's basically like playing on Hall of Fame level difficulty without having any sort of badges. Like, that's really how Bronny's playing right now. And, I mean, he scored 4 points in the last game, so, I mean, that's something. How did he shoot? He did shoot 2 for 4, so, again, that's also something. He's getting there, but, again, as of right now, I mean, his defense is pretty solid. Like, that's really the best part about his game, his defense. Like, the offense still needs some work, but, again, give it time. Like, Jaylen Brown was almost as bad as Bronny was when he was in the Summer League. So you need to give it some time. You got to let it marinate a little bit. And obviously, a lot of the media and a lot of the analysts aren't going to let it marinate because he is LeBron James' child, and they're probably not even going to let him develop into the player that he can be, or like without significant amounts of pressure, given that he is LeBron's offspring. Next player that's directly under Jamal Murray, that ranked at number 32, is Chet Holmgren. Now, I don't really think this is a bad spot for Chet, especially given the almost Rookie of the Year award season that he had. There was debate on whether or not Victor Wembanyama was even going to win Rookie of the Year because of Chet Holmgren. Now, I will say that a lot of those fans that really thought Chet had a chance of winning Rookie of the Year were rather delusional and had no idea how Rookie of the Year actually worked. Because a lot of the reasons why Chet was considered a favorite to some fans was because of the team's success, which had nothing to do with him, by the way. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was an MVP caliber player. That was the big reason why the Thunder had any team success, not to mention the rest of the roster being loaded with talent. Nothing to do with Chet and his efficiency, which was really the only thing that he had going against Victor Wembanyama. But aside from that, Victor had everything. He had the production, he had the numbers, he had the monster performances. He outplayed Chet in a matchup that they faced, effectively killing any sort of argument for Chet Holmgren being Rookie of the Year, because Victor ended up beating the Thunder and just outplayed Chet like he was just a rag doll. Like, really, there was no argument for Chet to be Rookie of the Year, in my opinion, but a lot of people, they made that argument. So that doesn't necessarily mean that he had a bad season, though. I'm not trying to necessarily degrade the season that he had, because he played pretty solid. He did play really solid in that in his rookie season. I mean, he averaged, let me just go ahead and see here. He was one of the 2 players in NBA history to record at least 200 assists along with 150 blocks and 100 made three-pointers this season. And, of course, the other player was Victor Wembanyama. Shocker. But, again, it's like, really that's sort of, it's a pretty solid performance. Like, again, very solid performance. And he helped the Thunder make a 17-game improvement and became part of a team that was the youngest number 1 seed ever in NBA history. So I can't really take that away from him. Next, ranked at number 33, is Lauri Markkanen. And I'm not entirely sure whether or not I agree with this. He just signed a 5-year, $238 million contract. He's only 27 years old. He averaged 24 points per game, shot 49% from the field, 39% from three, 88% from the free throw line. So 33, it does sound rather respectable, I will say that. And I don't really know if I could rank him any lower than some of these players that are coming up. Actually, I definitely can, and I do have a lot to say about the next player that's going to come up, and that is Rudy Gobert. I cannot stand the fact that this guy is ranked at number 34. Rudy Gobert ranked at 34 makes absolutely no sense. He was ranked 64 last season, and you're telling me he made a 30-point jump in the rankings? Really? Number 34? The 34 best player? I can guarantee you there are going to be 5 players left on this list that are coming down, like 35, 36, 37, 38, that they should all be ranked higher than Rudy Gobert. I'm not even going to look at the players that are ranked lower than him yet. We're going to go into our break, and then we're going to look at the players that are ranked below Rudy Gobert. And we're going to see whether or not Rudy Gobert deserves this ranking or whether or not he doesn't deserve this ranking at number 34. So I'll be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned if you guys are interested.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, we are going to be continuing on with ESPN's top players in the NBA. We left off with, Rudy Gobert, ranked at number 34. And now we're going to do something that I think is going to be really enjoyable. We're going to see how many players ranked below Rudy Gobert are actually better than Rudy Gobert. So let's go ahead. Right? Again, Rudy Gobert was ranked at number 34. So at number 35, we got Scottie Barnes. Again, one of the more underrated players in the entire NBA. Scottie Barnes is not worse than Rudy Gobert. He's better than Rudy Gobert. Scottie Barnes' production was out of this world when he was healthy. He led the Raptors in points. He led the Raptors in rebounds. He led the Raptors in assists. He led the Raptors in blocks. He led the Raptors in steals. He led the Raptors in three-point makes. He is the best player on the Raptors. There's no reason why he should be worse than Rudy Gobert, who can only play defense and can only dunk the ball. Yes, I understand. Defense is incredibly valuable, but scoring, he is a liability. And in fact, people aren't even scared to go up on Rudy Gobert. He should not have won Defensive Player of the Year award last season over Victor Wembanyama. I will stand on that. He should have not won that award. Victor should have won that award. People are more scared of Victor at the rim than they are with Rudy Gobert now. I'm sorry to say this, but Rudy Gobert should not be ranked higher than Scottie Barnes. And for those of you guys who play fantasy basketball, I recommend drafting Scottie Barnes. His production, he's going to give you a lot of points. He's going to give you a lot of fantasy points because he can get boards, he can get assists, he can get points. He can do basically everything on the court. Anything that you need a player to do, he can do it. And there's really no reason why he should be ranked lower than Rudy Gobert. At 35, it's respectable. I can understand him being ranked at 35. But if that means being ranked below Rudy Gobert, then that is just completely wrong. So that's one player already that should not be ranked lower than Rudy Gobert. Let's see who the next player is. Jrue Holiday. Again, another player who shouldn't be ranked lower than Rudy Gobert. Jrue Holiday, he has offensive production, and he has the defensive production. I know this picture, is a little bit old. He's no longer on Milwaukee. He's on the Boston Celtics. I totally understand that, so don't think I missed that. It's Jrue Holiday. It's the same Jrue Holiday. We know him. We love him. He was but he was second team all defense along with his Celtic teammate, Derek White. So I don't really see I don't think Drew Holiday is worse than Rudy Gobert. I think Drew Holiday is much better than Rudy Gobert, especially at the guard position, because now there aren't that many point guards that really give a lot of effort on the defensive side while still, giving that same amount of effort on the offensive side. And Drew Holiday's production, it was very, very significant for the Celtics and their success. So I believe that there is more value in having Drew Holiday than having Rudy Gobert on your team, especially come the postseason, because come postseason, teams already have offensive schemes that render Rudy Gobert useless, not to mention that they also have defensive schemes that also render Rudy Gobert useless. In fact, Rudy Gobert, unless he's standing under the basket, is incredibly useless everywhere on the court. I'm sorry to say this, but that's just Rudy Gobert, and that's the caliber player that he is. And that's what I see with my own eyes. So I don't think Rudy Gobert should be ranked higher than players like Scottie Barnes or Drew Holiday, or even the next player that comes up on this list, which might be a little bit controversial to some of you, but Trae Young. He is much better than Rudy Gobert, in my opinion. I'm sorry to say this. I know Trae Young is a cone on defense. I know Trae Young cannot play defense whatsoever, but his offensive game is more than enough to carry for his lack of defensive game. And he's made it to the Eastern Conference Finals before. And while I don't think he's better than Drew Holiday, I don't think I would rather have Trae Young on the team as opposed to Drew Holiday at point guard. I will say that I don't think that Trae Young should be ranked anywhere lower than Rudy Gobert. It is just that simple. Now, Trae Young, he took a huge drop in the rankings. He was ranked number 27th in the previous ESPN ranking, and now he's dropped all the way down to number 37 in the ESPN ranking. So, again, I don't really disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all. But if he is going to be lower than Rudy Gobert, yeah, I disagree with that completely. He's just better than Rudy Gobert. It's that simple. Same thing with the next player on this list, which is Mikal Bridges. So far that's 4 players that should be ranked higher than Rudy Gobert, but aren't ranked higher than Rudy Gobert. Mikal Bridges for the Knicks, previously played for the Brooklyn Nets, and he played in every single game. Like, he always does. He's the Iron Man of today's NBA. He plays in practically every single game. Not to mention his production and his defense is also pretty solid. Now, I do say it's solid. I will admit that last season was one of his weaker seasons as one of the main, as the main focal point of the offense for the Brooklyn Nets. But I don't think he is worse than Rudy Gobert. Especially in this season coming up. I think he's actually going to be better than Rudy Gobert in this coming season. And again, he should not be ranked lower than Rudy Gobert. I'm sorry to say this, but there are very few players that should be ranked lower than Rudy Gobert, and a lot of players that should be ranked higher than Rudy Gobert, Mikal Bridges being one of them. Next, this one I know all of you Celtics fans are going to disagree with completely. Derek White. Derek White being ranked at number 39. He is much more valuable, and he's much more of a worthy asset on a team now instead of Rudy Gobert. Like, it's really just that simple. He made the Olympic team. He won a gold medal. He made the All-NBA defensive team as well as a guard, and while still being able to produce 20 points per game. He was an unsung hero for the Boston Celtics, and one of the big reasons why the Celtics were so good in the regular season and why the Celtics continued that success into the postseason. Now, obviously, he's not the first, second, or even the third option for the team. Who knows? He might even develop into the third option now, given this season, and see if he can produce a little bit more on the offensive side. But again, he should not be worse than Rudy Gobert. He's better than Rudy Gobert. He's more valuable than Rudy Gobert. And it just does not make any sense to me why all of these players that I mentioned are ranked lower than Rudy Gobert. I'm going to continue saying Rudy Gobert until you guys get sick of it, because this ranking is just it's appalling to me. It's absolute malarkey. Now, in comparison to everyone else on the roster, well, not on the roster, but in comparison to everybody else that was on this list, I do think, I'm not entirely sure who I would put, I don't know if I would say that Derek White is better than Drew Holiday. That's really tough to say for me. Like, I can't really put my finger on which one of those two players I think is better. And I think they really give, more or less the exact same value. It just depends on what game they're playing and who has the ball more in that specific game, really. So, is Derek White better than Trae Young? I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I want to say yes, because he can provide on the offense and he can provide on the defense, unlike Trae Young, who only provides on the offensive side. So, like, for a point guard or, like, a guard in general, I think I would rather have Derek White over someone like Trae Young. Now, with Mikal Bridges, I think I would also rather have Derek White aside from Mikal Bridges. But again, this might just be the recency bias, and given how his team ended up winning in the playoffs. And it should be noted that the Celtics, they had a very, very solid team. And I don't really think that... I can't say that he's worse than Rudy Gobert. That is a definite no. But I also can't really say that he's better than Scotty Barnes. I can't really say that he's better than Drew. I can say that he's better than Trae Young. And maybe even Mikal Bridges. So if I were to re-rank this, I would probably put Derek White directly under Drew Holiday at 37. And Trae Young all the way back to 39, just behind Mikal Bridges. And Rudy Gobert should be completely off of the 30s completely. He should not be ranked 34. He should be ranked 60-something. I'm sorry to say this, but like Rudy Gobert is not it. It's just that simple. He is not it. And let's continue. Let's go ahead and go on with this list because we still have a couple of minutes for this segment. So we can go ahead and continue. Now, Brandon Ingram, he is ranked directly after Derek White. I don't really have a problem with Brandon Ingram in this specific spot. I do have a problem with him being ranked higher than Rudy Gobert, but that's also mainly because of the fact that I've seen Brandon Ingram, he plays offense rather well. His defense is lackluster, but if he has to be ranked over Rudy Gobert because of team success, then I can somewhat get it, even though Rudy Gobert doesn't really do much for the team's success aside from the defensive side of the ball. And even then, that's more of a team accolade, I think. I feel like, having a dominant team defense and the best ranked defense in the entire NBA, while he definitely does play a part in that, that's also a team thing. I mean, you need pretty solid perimeter defenders as well. And the fact that Rudy Gobert does not play on the perimeter, it doesn't really help his case all that much. So, I don't really think that having him under Rudy Gobert is a bad thing. I don't think so, but at the end of the day, I still would rather, if I were to pick which player I would want on my team, if I were to pick which player I think is better, my instincts would immediately say Brandon Ingram. That's just my instincts. And honestly, this is where it gets a little bit more questionable with James Harden. I'm not entirely sure where exactly I would rank James Harden, especially given his last season with the Clippers and given how his career has sort of shaped up in the long term and how he is in the postseason. Because unlike a lot of these star players, James Harden is abysmal in the postseason. And it's not just one time. It's every single season. Every single season he has these terrible playoff performances. He has these terrible playoff games. And not only does it damage his legacy, but it also just doesn't give me any sort of incentive to really believe in him during the regular season. Because eventually I know he's just going to crash and burn in the postseason. So I can't really say whether or not I would have him over Rudy Gobert because I know that both of them aren't really going to be much of a factor in the postseason. Now, historically, yes, James Harden is better than Rudy Gobert, but in terms of this season, going into this season and based off of last season, I can't really put my finger on it. So, not entirely sure. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you guys think that all of those players that I just mentioned are better than Rudy Gobert? Do you guys think that Rudy Gobert is ranked too high? Because I, for one, definitely think Rudy Gobert is ranked too high. James Harden, he was 41. And just, to wrap up and to remind everybody of the players that I went through, James Harden was 41. Brandon Ingram was 40. Derek White was 39. Mikal Bridges was 38. Trae Young was 37. Drew Holiday was 36. Scotty Barnes was 35. And Rudy Gobert was 34. at least only 2 of those players should be ranked lower than Rudy Gobert. But aside from that, everybody else should have been ranked higher than Rudy Gobert. I'm sorry, but Rudy Gobert is incredibly overrated, at least in terms of this list. Because I feel like a lot of people and a lot of fans in the NBA, they already know that Rudy Gobert, like the limitations that Rudy Gobert brings to your offense. And yes, while he is fantastic on the defensive side of the ball, again, that is some huge downsides on the offensive side, and that's half of the game. That's half of the game. It's played on the offensive side of the court, and Rudy Gobert is just a bust on that side. So that's all that I really have to say. So now we're going to go ahead and go into the 5th segment, where I do a preseason recap of all of the games that went down yesterday. So I'll be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned for that. And we are back with the 5th segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this 5th segment, we are going to be doing our preseason recap of all of the games that went down yesterday. We have 7 games to go over. So let's go ahead. 2 of those games actually ended in overtime, by the way. So the first game that we have to talk about is the Mavericks. They ended up beating the Milwaukee Bucks 109-84. Kyrie Irving, he played 19 minutes in this game for some reason. I don't know why Kyrie's playing all that much, but watch. If he's playing 19 minutes in a preseason game, if he doesn't play in every single game in the regular season for the Mavericks, then something is wrong and he might be on his Kyrie stuff. So, who knows? And he ended with 14 points. Klay Thompson also played in this game. He finally scored, again, 4 for 11 from the field, 11 points, 3 for 7 from 3. And really, the leading scorer for the Dallas Mavericks was Kyrie Irving. Meanwhile, they did have some pretty solid production coming in off the bench. Now, for Milwaukee Bucks, they did not play Damian Lillard or Giannis Antetokounmpo, which is a great move. So I don't really expect them to win when they don't have either of those players on the roster, so it makes total sense. Gary Trent Jr. ended up being the leading scorer, but he also ended up being the leading shot taker. He went 6 for 14 and ended up scoring 12 points. So not really that efficient, but again, they don't have Giannis and they don't have Dame. I don't really expect the Milwaukee Bucks to do much without their 2 best players. And not to mention, they also did not have Chris Middleton play in this game either. So again, did not really expect the Bucks to win if that's the lineup that they're coming in with. Now, the Lakers, they ended up playing the Suns in an overtime game. They ended up winning 128-122. They got incredible production from Anthony Davis, who played 34 minutes. He had 35 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. And D'Angelo Russell, he played 31 minutes, 9 points, 10 assists. Pretty solid. Austin Reeves, 18 points, 2 assists, and 8 rebounds. And then Dalton Knecht. Oh my goodness, Dalton Knecht. 35 points, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and 7 rebounds. He was incredible at shooting the 3 ball. He went 8 for 13 from the 3, 10 of 18 from the field. Just incredibly solid production coming in from Dalton Knecht. And this is arguably one of the biggest steals in the entire draft, Dalton Knecht. And they really need his 3-point shooting in order to succeed. So the fact that he's able to The fact that he was able to shoot like this, it should be, pretty positive signs for the Lakers. Bronny, as I mentioned before, he also was playing in this game. He ended with 4 points, which I think is a career high. And he went 2 for 4 from the field. He actually shot a lot better than a lot of the other players on the roster. Let's see, who did he shoot better? Cam Reddish, he shot better than Cam Reddish. He went 2 for 6 from the field. Jalen Hood-Schifino ended up going 1 for 8 from the field with 3 points. So, again, I think that's a career high for Bronny, but we'll see going into the future. Kevin Durant ended up scoring 19 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists in 31 minutes. I don't think Kevin Durant should be playing all that much in a preseason game, but I guess, that's just how the Suns want to operate. Bradley Beal played 30 minutes, 13 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Devin Booker played 28 minutes, 22 rebounds. Not 22 rebounds, Jesus Christ. 22 points, I meant to say. 3 rebounds and 2 assists. And there goes my wallet. But aside from that, Devin Booker, he also shot 8 for 18 from the field. Kevin Durant went 8 for 13 from the field. And Bradley Beal went 4 for 15. So it might seem like another season with the Suns, they're being okay in the regular season and then just collapsing in the postseason. We'll have to see how that unfolds. Next, the Indiana Pacers, they ended up playing the Charlotte Hornets, and they ended up going to overtime in this game. The Pacers won 121 to 116. Tyrese Halliburton ended the game with 14 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Miles Turner ended the game with 18 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. Pascal Siakam ended with 6 points. They did not play more than 30 minutes. None of those players that I mentioned played more than 30 minutes. They played 25 minutes. All 3 of those players that I mentioned played 25 minutes. And coming off the bench, Ben Shepherd ended up scoring 14 points in 28 minutes. And Miles Turner, he was the most efficient player. Actually, no, I lied. Enrique Freeman was the most efficient player in this game at the power forward position. He went 7 of 8 from the field and recorded 15 points. So solid performance, solid efficient performance coming from a majority of the players on the Pacers, and they also had a lot of possessions as well. They had 103 shot attempts compared to the Hornets' 89 shot attempts. And let's see, Brandon Miller, again the leading scorer for the Charlotte Hornets, ended the game with 20 points, 6 of 10 from the field. Who else? Tidjane Salon was awful. 2 for 11 from the field, 2 for 7 from 3 with 7 points. And let's see. Nick Smith Jr., 4 for 16 from the field, 14 points, the second leading scorer for the team. Really just an inefficient night coming in from the Hornets in terms of field goal percentage. They did shoot 40% from 3. However, the Pacers, they ended up taking way more shot attempts. And, of course, when you take more shot attempts, the chances are you're going to make more shot attempts. And, they made 47 shots compared to the Hornets' 42 shots. So, obviously they were going to end up coming out on top. Now, the Rockets, they ended up destroying the Spurs in this preseason game. They ended up winning 129 to 107. Jalen Green had 30 points in this matchup, 2 rebounds and 2 assists. Fred VanVleet ended with 15 points and 5 assists. Alperen Sengun ended with 21 points and 10 rebounds. And Amen Thompson ended with 18 points and 6 rebounds for the Houston Rockets. Houston shot 52% from the field in this game compared to the San Antonio Spurs' 43%, And the Spurs, as a team, they shot 9 for 34 from 3, which is 26%. Not ideal three-point shooting, definitely not the kind of three-point shooting that you want from your team. They were without Victor Wembanyama in this game or Chris Paul, as they should. They should not be playing either of those players in preparation for the regular season. And let's see, Stephon Castle ended with 16 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, along with 2 steals. Malachi Branham ended the game with 15 points and 3 assists. Trey Jones ended with 4 points and 8 assists. And Zach Collins ended the game with 10 points, 6 assists, and 4 rebounds. Harrison Barnes also played in this game. He played 22 minutes, ended the game with 12 points and 4 rebounds. And let's see. Let me just go ahead and look at the field goal percentage real quick. He shot 4 for 5 from the field as well. So solid, but again, as a team, that three-point percentage was pitiful and not enough to win. The Nuggets, they ended up winning their first preseason game against the Timberwolves. They won 132-126 on the road. And Jamal Murray ended the game with 25 points, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. And really was one of the... Jokic played in this game for some baffling reason. He ended with 4 points, 7 assists, and 7 rebounds. So really not all that much productive scoring coming in from Nikola Jokic. He only took 5 shots, so I mean it's not like he was really trying in this game. Aaron Gordon ended with 5 points, 1 for 6 from the field, really not that impressive at all. And let's see, Julian Strawther, who came off of the bench, ended up scoring 33 points, which is incredible, and he also shot 8 for 13 from the field, 5 of 8 from the three-point line. So that is just an impressive performance coming in from Strawther coming off the bench. Russell Westbrook ended with 13 points, 5 for 7 from the field, and ended with also 5 assists along with 2 rebounds as well. And let's see, Dario Saric ended the game with 13 points and 5 rebounds and 1 assist along with 1 steal in 15 minutes played with the Nuggets. So overall, solid performance coming in from the Nuggets. They shot 57% from 3 as a team and 54% from the field as a team, compared to the Timberwolves, who shot 37% from 3 as a team and 49% from the field as a team. So when the Nuggets are just shooting the lights out as they were, it's really difficult to win. And they were really close. They were just 6 points off. Now, for the Timberwolves, Luka Garza ended the game with 29 points and 9 rebounds. Rob Dillingham, he ended the game with 15 points and 7 assists. And Anthony Edwards did not play in this game, obviously. Should not be playing in any of these preseason games. Daishen Nix, he ended the game with 17 points, 5 assists, and 4 rebounds. And who else played pretty well? Jesse Edwards, he ended the game with 14 points and 4 rebounds in 16 minutes. So that's, again, really, like, those players, they played pretty solid, but it was just the team shooting that held this team back. Now, as I mentioned before, the Thunder, Isaiah Hartenstein is probably going to be out for the beginning of the season due to a fracture on his left hand. But aside from that, they ended up winning comfortably against the Atlanta Hawks. They won 104-99. And Chet Holmgren ended the game with 15 points on 17 minutes. SGA, for some reason, was playing in this game. He ended with 6 points in 20 minutes, along with 4 rebounds and 3 steals. So not really sure entirely what that is all about. He didn't really shoot the ball all that much. So, again, I don't really expect these guys to be trying, like the starters, to really be going all in this game. He only took 4 shots, was 2 for 4 on those shots. 2 for 3 from 3 as well. So maybe this is a new era for SGA. Maybe he's going to start shooting the 3 ball a little bit more. But who knows? We'll still have to see. There was also Isaiah Joe, who ended up going 6 for 10 from the field, 16 points. And Ousmane Dang, forgive me if I messed up the first and the last name. He went 4 for 7 from the field and ended with 15 points. And Jalen Williams, 5 for 6 from the field, as efficient as always, along with 11 points. Now, with the Atlanta Hawks, they ended up getting a 31-point performance from Kobe. Yeah, his name is Kobe. Kobe Buffkin, 31 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists. And let's see. Trae Young did not play in this game, obviously. And let's see who else played well. David Roddy ended up getting 9 points and 12 rebounds in this game. Now, Dyson Daniels ended up getting 13 points and 8 rebounds in this game. Did the rookie play? Let me see. No, it didn't. No, the rookie did not play in this preseason matchup. Kobe, though, good lord. I mean, he had a Kobe performance, let me tell you that. 31 points and went 12 for 26 from the field, 7 of 14 from 3. That's a lot of shot attempts, and that's more or less Kobe. That's more or less Kobe Bryant. Now, Dyson Daniels, he went 5 for 14 from the field, but Garrison Matthews on the Atlanta Hawks had only 9 points and went 3 for 12 from the field, 3 of 9 from 3. Excuse me. So, as a team, however, the Atlanta Hawks, they ended up shooting 29% from 3, which is, again, not ideal. And the Thunder, they ended up shooting 37% from 3, which is, better. And they shot better from the field as well. Obviously, this was a big reason why they ended up winning in this game. And the Kings, they matched up against the Clippers. The Kings still haven't won a preseason game. Sabonis ended with 24 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists with 27 minutes played. De'Aaron Fox did not play in this game. He shouldn't have. DeMar DeRozan, however, played 25 minutes, ended with 9 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist, 1 steal, and shot 3 for 8 from the field. So I don't know what that's all about. They're going to really have to figure that out. Doug McDermott ended the game with 14 points, 5 of 13 from the field. Keegan Murray ended the game 4 for 11 with 11 points. And let's see, who else? That was really all the good performances coming in from the Kings. They shot 26% from the field, from 3 as a team, and 34% from the field, compared to the Clippers, who ended up shooting 36% from 3 and 54% from the field. So that's a 10% difference in three-point percentage and a 20% difference in field goal percentage. And that's obviously why the Clippers were able to win so comfortably. Now, let's see. Jordan Miller ended the game with 21 points, 8 for 11 from the field, and 2 for 2 from 3. Amir Coffey ended with 18 points, 5 of 10 from the field. Did James Harden play? James Harden did not play in this game. So, again, I don't really expect James Harden to play in this game or in any sort of preseason game, given, his history with injuries and, his hamstring and things like that. Terrence Mann, he played only 11 minutes, got 12 points in this matchup. It was really the bench that ended up producing pretty solidly for the Clippers. And again, their shooting was a big reason why they ended up winning this game. So that's all that I really have to say on the preseason games that happened yesterday. There's going to be 7 preseason games that are going to be happening later on today. The Knicks are going to play against the Wizards. The Raptors are going to play the Nets. The Lakers are going to face off the Warriors again. 76ers are going to play the Orlando Magic. The Cavs are going to play the Bulls. The Heat are going to play the Grizzlies. And the Jazz are going to play the Portland Trailblazers. So the televised game is obviously going to be the Lakers going up against the Warriors. That's going to be on ESPN 2 if any of you guys are interested. And that's all that I really have to say for this podcast. That's it for this segment. Thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. We love to hear what you guys have to say during the show, whether you guys have a hot take, a burning question, anything you've been dying to share, we are all ears. If you really want your comment and or question to get noticed, then I recommend using Super Chat. Just click on the $ below the chat box, and you can send in your comments and or donations that way. Either or really helps the show. If Super Chat's not really your thing, that's fine. You could always use the link displayed below the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net, and you can send in your comments and or donations that way, and it's guaranteed to get featured on the next show. So I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. I know I'm going to enjoy my weekend, and I just clicked on the wrong segment. That's a little embarrassing. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Nelson, and as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.